more than a profession. It's a calling, it's a love, it's a love story, really. And as you said, that's the biggest love story. That's your ultimate soulmate. So it's very hard. It's very tough. And as I said, although I was out of acting, it was always in the back of my head. I'm a baby now, I'm a 51-year-old baby, meaning that, it's completely the beginning. It's like, 3-4 months.
Well, hello, sir. Welcome to your interview.
Hello.
Right. So I always start with the basics with everyone, which is you are an actor, as far as I know. Is there anything else you do?
Well, I'm a returning actor. I was for many years here in the UK. I was in sales.
Right.
So I was a sales advisor. Then I was an account manager. So I managed brokers that sold for us. Then I became a sales trainer.
Right.
So that was my career.
So hang on. So were you an actor? I didn't mention that you're from Greece originally as well. So were you an actor in Greece and then you came over here?
Exactly. In Greece, acting was my career in the 90s.
Right. Okay.
So that was before Christ.
Yeah, I'm alive. I was alive in the 90s. Come on.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah. So when you were a sparkle in your dad's eyes, I was, I was doing this acting thing then. So that was around 8 years.
Right. Okay.
So that was my first career. I went to one of the 2 national drama schools in Greece. So Theatro Technis Karlo School is quite prestigious. So I auditioned there. I was accepted. Back then, they took 11 people out of 300 that actually auditioned for them.
Nice.
So that was my career. I worked with them as a student. So they took me to their productions, and then I worked, independently with directors in Greece. So that was my career until I turned 30, and I don't know, it was a combination of circumstances. I was working with a big director back then, Ioannis Vamvakitis. He died. I was turning 30 years old. I felt too old to go back into auditioning. A job that I was supposed to have in the winter didn't happen. So all these circumstances made me think, what? I'm 30 years old. I want to do other things in my life. So I went back to school, went to college, got a BA in English literature, and I came here to the UK to do a master. So I came for a year.
Right. Okay.
And one thing led to the other, and I stayed here. But acting was always, in the background. So I was always thinking about, I want to really get back to it.
Interesting. See, like I want to do other stuff, but you never quite forgot about it. It's like your first love.
Never. And I remember back in 2008, I was working for a company in Haywards Heath, and my supervisor, Christine, who's an amazing person, we're still friends. And she was nagging me, you have to do it again. You have to get back into acting. And I was like, yes, Christine, but so I was practicing monologues, and then I was checking it out, and I was like, anyway, it sounded too complicated. And I had a mortgage on the side, and I had well-paid jobs, and I was like, you know what? Okay, leave it there. So it was always there in the background. So I'm talking too much, Sylas.
No, that's the whole point. That's the whole point. I want interviews where people talk. I don't want an interview. You're like, no, tell me.
Yeah. Oh gosh. Okay. So, and then what happened in 2020?
Right.
I got cancer. So I got a specific type of blood cancer, non-Hodgkin's lymphoma that was very aggressive. Yeah. Good news is that those aggressive lymphomas are more curable. They can kill you more easily, but if you get through them, you go to an all-clear phase after 2 years. It's better prognosis than the low grade. Anyway, got that, and that kind of it was like Sylas, sometimes you need a slap in life.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes it's a slap, sometimes it's a lymphoma. Bloody hell.
Exactly. Same thing. Same difference. So the lymphoma kind of made me rethink about my life and what's important. So I resigned from the job, although they were amazing, my last employer. They really stuck with me through the lymphoma. but I resigned from them. I actually went and worked in a hospital as a healthcare assistant for a while, just to give something back. And then I was like, what do I want to do? What do I want to do? And because acting was always there, I thought, you know what? I'll give it a go. I'm 50 now, not 20. I'm, a non-English person living in the UK, which is another level of difficulty on top of it.
There's different challenges with it. Absolutely.
Of course, and just did it, one step at a time. I applied with my diplomas. I got accepted on Spotlight. After that, I found an agent through Spotlight, and and did my tapes. There were some offers. I did one of them, which I thought was the best that I could do. A small thing I cannot announce because it has to go on press. And I'm trying. I'm still. I'm a returning actor, but I feel like a beginner.
I mean, because the industry, especially if I was gonna ask, you never acted in the UK until now, so you came here went into
straight in my master's degree. Then I was teaching at I was doing a PhD, so I was lecturing for Sussex University. I was an associate tutor, and I was also doing some lectures. Then I became a part-time lecturer for Brighton University. It was all media and film studies, and media and gender. I'm gay myself, so my studies were, my PhD was on homosexuality in Greece and how gays and lesbians there reconstruct space and identity. And it's really interesting because you had an interview with another artist, and she mentioned psychogeography.
Yes.
And that was part of my PhD as well.
Was it actually?
So what I did, I interviewed 10 gay men and 10 lesbians in Greece, and I asked them, first of all, questions to see how they place themselves opposite the institutions that are, straight institutions like the church, school, religion, And then I asked them to draw for me maps of Athens, but how they live Athens. So I asked them to use different colors. And so it was such an amazing project. And each map was so different. So it was drawing down their emotions in space. And it was actually trying to see how, gays are, these liberal beings that do not conform into the heteronormative gender roles. And they create new identities. And now with the non-binary coming into place, it's quite, you actually see that gay people actually have created these new identities, and they're reclaiming them beyond the heteronormative norms.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, it's quite fascinating, that bit, because that was whole new, the whole psychogeography as a.
Sorry, that was completely relevant, but
No. That was a whole new concept for me. But it is like when you sit down and think about it, it's like you get to see the world through someone else's eyes a little bit, but like the actual physical world. So it's like you kind of rediscovering the stuff that but from a different angle, and it's
exactly fascinating. It's exactly what you're saying. It's exactly what you're saying, that each one of us perceives the world subjectively.
Yeah.
And as a result, we construct our own individual maps of the world.
Yeah.
Anyone, you as well. As what you said, each one of us, to draw their own map.
Yeah, it's a human thing, but it is. It's always sort of fascinating to see that. I don't know. Just for me, it entertains me to no end. Of like, oh, is that how somebody else just sees that? It's the same thing, but completely different interpretation of it.
Perfect. Yep.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Well, I've got so many questions for you, sir, because you've lived a long and adventurous life. Let's start. In the beginning, why acting? How acting? I always like to get this out of the way. It's a good.
Okay. I was studying to become in the economic department of the Athens University of Economic and Business. So I was in the university, and there I met with a group of people that were also studying in the economics department, but they were also studying the directing in some schools. So we formed this group of people, and we started putting on some plays to take part in the Panepistimiada, which is like an inter-university competition.
Right.
So universities take part with specific plays. So I started acting with them, and you know that, Sylas, because you're an actor. You know that feeling where you're on stage, and you connect with all those people. It's a magic bond happening.
Yeah, you get that high. Yes, it's a massive high.
It's a massive high. It destroyed my life. No, it didn't. But you know what I mean.
Just a little bit.
Just a little bit.
Uh,
So I went back home and said, Mom, I don't want to become. I hated economics anyway. I was on my third year, and I said, look, I don't want to do that. I want to become an actor. And then my mom freaked out completely, so she called my older sister, which Katya,
speak to your brother. He's talking nonsense.
So anyway, so she said, look, because the way you into school in Greece, then you had to audition for different schools.
Yeah.
Then if they would accept you, you have to take a different exam for the Ministry of Culture, which was a combination of written exams about the history of theater, but also you had to audition the same pieces. So it was quite, it was quite tough for the good schools. So theater technics was, like a dream for me because, it was Carlos Kuhn is a great tradition in theater in Greece. And so anyway, I auditioned and I was accepted. And that was it. So I entered the school and I loved it. I loved the theater. If you ask me I was 23 years old when I was accepted at Teatro Technis, and I graduated when I was in 1996. I was 26 years old. If you asked me back then, what do you want to do in life, Sylas, it would be, I want to die on stage. And I was so in love with the stage mainly, because that's what mainly I did. So the theater, so that's, it was a big love. I don't know. And then I think I was too spoiled in life, and I was maybe too high maintenance. It's so easy to give on hope because it's not an easy road.
It's not, absolutely not.
And it's very easy to say, at any point in time that, what, oh gosh, I had enough. I'm fed up. I'm doing something, this is what I did. I said, I'm fed up with this dream. I wanted to go and do, I wanted to do something that is, real. There's something that fits in there, and that's what I went to study. But, and that was it, so I just got disappointed because of the death of Minos Vamvakitis, the job that didn't happen in the end, the way it didn't happen. It just hurt me, and I just said, but I was, I was so regretted because I lost all these heroes, Sylas. And you know what? I worked as an actor in Greece. It was not that I was an unemployed actor. Yeah. I was not the first name, but I was playing in big theaters with big directors on the side of actors that I grew up with on television. And I feel that I didn't really appreciate it. I didn't really feel grateful enough.
Maybe the early successes, which is something we were told in our courses, that sometimes not getting accepted into your drama school the first time is the best thing that can happen to you, because in the sense that some people, if you get in and you get all these early success, you get used to it. So you're not used to the other side of the coin where, I do have this theory that it's better to struggle in the beginning, and then you have that background, and then when you start getting the successes, you just appreciate them for what they are, as opposed to, and you already know what can come after it, so you're riding the highs and the lows, but you're not, it's not your entire world. You're not suddenly taken away, and then you're not the same person you were, and you lose yourself in the whole moment. So I think, there's something to be said about surviving success, because everybody talks about surviving failure, but success can be quite debilitating as well.
You're 100% right, Sylas. Sometimes early success, and I'm not saying that I was a successful actor. I was playing small roles in big theaters with big directors, but I had the job all the time. But sometimes, that can actually spoil you. I think it's better to what you said. If you learn the magic of fighting, it's so important to fight from the beginning and kind of assess your own power and your own will, and how much you're willing to give of yourself into something. And I think that makes you stronger in the end. So I think you're completely right. Sometimes if things come your way, you just become too comfortable with them, and then you feel like, oh gosh, when something goes wrong, you cannot deal with it because you haven't learned how to deal with it, with
Yeah,
things going wrong.
yeah. I mean, yeah, it's quite fascinating how you can be formed by the earliest experiences you have really shape the view of you can have of like an industry, and then you always refer back to that, and then suddenly you start questioning yourself. I'm like, why is this not going the way it used to? It's supposed to go well. Why is it not going well?
Exactly.
And I think I was quite lucky that early on, like every single one of my teachers that I've had was like, it's gonna be shit. It's gonna be shit for a little bit. But it's nice. But at the end of the day, you're still happy. And that's why we do it. And you're like, okay. And then, if things start happening for you, great. Make the most of it. But yeah, it is. You learn to appreciate just the little wins, the little victories, and it's actually a good thing.
I've kind of watched videos you've done. I don't know. I'm turning the tables a bit, but I see that you really like stand-up comedy, which
Yes.
I find fascinating. I think is the toughest form of actually going up there and performing to people. How did you get into that? I don't know.
Uh,
Out of curiosity that I have.
well, there's so basically in high school, I've had two sort of way. My dad brought me a lot of movies, so there's a bit of backstory. I was raised by a single dad from the age of 8 onwards. So
Okay.
my dad, in order to sort of fill that void and the gap, was like, okay, this kid is not gonna get depressed. He just brought every single film that he could, every single comedy. My dad loves comedy, so just anything. Like I've seen Oliver, like Laurel and Hardy. I've seen Norman Wisdom. I've seen what is it? Bud Spencer, Terrence Hill.
Oh gosh, I love them. I used to love
Yeah,
those films.
yeah.
Yeah.
So basically, I've I've had different sort of box sets of just comedy and movies and things like that, and basically I've had this education. So that was in film, but then also from comedy movies, I started once I got the internet and everything. Started watching stand up. I
Okay.
just discovered George Carlin for myself on YouTube, so I went on a binge of like stand up comedians, and then yeah, they were kind of the rock stars of like, I can sing, but I never got into it that much to like learn how to sing at a high
Yeah.
standard.
Yeah.
And comedy just feels like, you're on the stage by yourself, you're the center of the attention, but also it's only you, you get all so it's kind of becomes a bit about you. Uh, in that
Which is not a bad thing at all.
Well,
I think that.
I mean, I'm learning now to say it's not really about the audience; it's more about
Yeah.
expressing myself. But it's
Yeah.
a
It's both. Man. It's both, isn't it?
yeah, but it's a simple way of expressing yourself, I guess,
Yeah. Yeah.
or just of an efficient way because I don't need anything else. I just need a microphone and my jokes.
How do you test the jokes? See, that's my biggest. How do you go out being confident that these jokes, will work?
Well, I don't know if it's gonna work. That's the thing. You never know if it's gonna work. I mean, basically, if I find something funny, chances are someone else will too. So I just go with the funniest jokes I have.
Yeah.
Um, And then it's a bit of a mix as well because sometimes it's about learning who's gonna find it funny and be like, okay, you're my audience, you're not my audience, and that's okay, you know. Uh,
Yeah. Yeah. It's
so,
true.
I mean,
Yeah.
I'm still learning. I'm seriously into comedy for less than a year, so I mean, like stand up comedy. Like I've done a couple of gigs back in 2014, but I've been pursuing it consistently from February of this year. So not
Okay.
yet. Yeah, so I'm still learning this stuff, but I'm kind of because I focused a lot on the acting before and music and stuff, just learning how they go about it. I've been kind of bringing that mindset from acting and from music into comedy, which is like, if you're a musician, you're gonna play your songs, whether they love it, hate it, or whatever, and then you're gonna move on.
Yeah.
You, you get paid to do your performance. Musician doesn't get paid for the crowd to sing along. If they sing along, that's fantastic. They're gonna bring you back, but you get
Yeah.
paid to do your song. So I kind of looked at it that way. I was like, as a comedian, my job is to tell my jokes as best as I can on the night. Whatever happens, happens.
Well, it's what you said, Silas. You cannot be everyone's cup of tea. It's
You know.
impossible. And I think that an artist that gets too stressed to be liked by all audiences, in the end, they lose sense of who they actually are. You
Yeah,
have to have identity, your signature, and that's going to go down with some people, and it's not going to go down with others, and it's fine. It's
and
okay.
you don't even have to be liked by the majority. You just have to be liked by enough people
Exactly.
to make a living. Because at the end
Yeah.
of the day, you can record your jokes and put them in YouTube, and and do that for the rest of your life. You can do that as
Yeah.
well. No, there's no law that says you have to make it as a comedian. Yeah, I'm learning how to have a healthy relationship with success, which is I think it's very important in any art, any industry, not just the arts, but in the arts specifically, which is like you don't have to succeed. It would be great if you did, but
Yeah.
don't beat yourself up. Like don't make it this. It's almost like if you don't succeed, then your entire life is a failure. You're nobody. You're worthless. Like don't give yourself that pressure.
And that's not true. You know what? If one thing I think my life is a testament to that. I've done so many different things in my life. Till the age of 50. And I've actually had success in a sense in all of them because I think anything you do in life, Silas, with love
Yeah,
and and with honesty and passion and integrity, anything you do in life, you can make it, succeed, and you can turn it into art. When I first moved to Brighton, and I was doing my master's, and then I was doing a PhD. You don't start teaching before the second year of the PhD. So the first year I worked at Nando's. So the Nando's down in Brighton had just opened, and it was packed with people. It was really busy. So we were cashiers, we washed the dishes, we served the tables, and it was so I did that. But always I tried to do it with love for the people, and try and communicate it. And there were people, like young people, students, saying, what, gosh, you're doing this. You seem to really be enjoying this job. And that made me feel good. And it's any job. There's no job is a shameful one. Any job can become shameful if you're not doing it with integrity, if you're not doing it with love, if you're just doing it. It could be the best job in the world. And
yeah.
it could be,
If it's
you
not
know,
for you, it's not for you.
exactly that. So, yes,
I mean, I was
if it doesn't,
actually quite.
and if you don't succeed in acting, or if a job doesn't go well, it's not the end of the world. That's what it means. You can adapt, you can revisit things, and you can change. And yeah,
I mean, apparently, even the end of the world might not be the end of the world according to scientists. So we have to wait and figure it out.
yeah,
No.
exactly.
But I'm curious, something that you brought up, which is I think is more of a life lesson thing. But like, how was the transition from when you decided to break out of acting and do something else? And how did you? Yeah, I mean, imagine it was more about how did you find your feet again? How did you, you know?
To be honest, it was difficult. One thing, I'm one of the lucky people in life because I had a really good family behind me.
Mm.
So a really strong support network. So, I guess for someone who doesn't have that, it's way more difficult. But I had people to support me and give me love. And anything I did, any vision I had, no matter how crazy it was, and I've had a lot of crazy visions in life, but I had people behind to supporting me. But it was tough. It was really tough. And I remember me, gosh, I remember me, you know, when I saw former colleagues and actors who were still acting, and I was saying, well, I failed in acting, so I'm now doing this degree in English literature and theater, and I'm just thinking, how stupid I was. It was one thing that didn't go my way, and in my head, I was a failure, which goes back to what you were saying before. People just really think, oh gosh, it's the end of the world if something doesn't happen. It's the end of my life. Uh, and it was really hard. I couldn't go and get to the theater and see a play. I would get palpitations. It was really traumatic. And it was a traumatic experience for 2 years. I honestly could not go and see my friends play. Not because I was jealous, because emotionally, I found it devastating that I was not doing that anymore. So it took some time to say, well, I'm not an actor. And I think what helped me was not as much a degree what I did in Greece, but when I came here and I was teaching, when I was doing my PhD, because that is kind of a performance element to it, you know,
Yeah.
organizing. Yeah. So I think, yeah, but it was traumatic, to answer your question. Sorry.
No, I can only imagine. Yeah, I remember. So when I moved to the UK, I've had this. I was in a relationship with someone. Well, not one actually rubbish. I was already in the UK, but I had this long distance relationship. But basically, it came down to the person wanted to stay back home, and because they were more family orientated, and I wanted to be like, well, it's not gonna work because I want to do my acting stuff in the UK. I want to push myself and really go for the career. And I remember thinking to myself, because we're always told there's the one person, you need to find the one, the one, the one, and I was like, I will find another one person. I won't find another career. So I just literally went. So it is a very difficult thing to sort of give up on or just change. Now that might be, that I could be wrong. Maybe that's why I'm doing stand up now as well. I'm trying to diversify to have more than one thing in the performance field. But yeah, just giving something like that up, it is. I mean, it's almost like a death. It passes away, but it's there. It's like that's the one thing that's keeping. Well, that's one of the things that's keeping me going, which is like I know if I gave it up, I would be very much aware that I could just still go back to. It's not like, if a relationship they died or they have another relationship now, they're out there living their life with somebody else, fine, it's over. But the acting's there. I just need to go back. So I'm kind of curious how do people, process this, because it's not an easy thing to deal with.
No, it's it's acting, if you are an actor, is more than a profession. It's a calling, it's a love, it's a love story, really. And as you said, that's the biggest love story. That's your ultimate soulmate. So it's very hard. It's very tough. And as I said, although I was out of acting, it was always in the back of my head. That, at some point I have to do it again. It's a shame I had to get cancer, and I have to experience the mortality of life. And you cannot postpone things forever, because forever doesn't exist.
Yeah.
That made me actually make the decision to actually try again. But I'm a baby now. I'm 51-year-old baby, meaning that it's completely the beginning. It's like 3-4 months in this whole process for me, and I'm trying to I love this country. I've lived here for 20 years, but I'm not English, okay, and I have an accent. I don't know if it's apparent.
I mean, I've got one as well, a little bit.
And I will never convince playing someone who's English, because I'm not, and it's fine, and I'm happy with that. So it's kind of trying to reinvent, who am I? Where do I fit here? Where do I fit? What would be the audience that would actually want to see me act? So I don't know. It's kind of like trying to. Oh, I'm gonna oh, I don't like the word, but trying to see in how I should market myself, how I should, what's the business strategy? What is the brand behind this middle-aged, Greek man who's lived here for the last 20 years?
You gotta have a business mindset about acting as well, which I've been learning a lot. Because, we're all artists and we all want to do our art and stuff, but you can't do it for a long time without money. So at some point, you need to think about, how can I sell this to people?
Yeah.
Or actually, it's not just how and who can I sell this to? Because that's also an important question. And I mean, I think there's probably a one-man play in there somewhere. You've done so many things. I mean, surviving cancer, moving to another country, being an actor in Greece, and then coming here and doing something else, and then finding your way back to it. I mean, there's a love story there. There's an entire drama that you can do. That's like,
Yeah.
just thinking about it, because like you're owning it. I'm just saying, you're owning it. You're like, this is who I am. I'm a Greek guy in the UK, and this is my story.
You know what? I'm going to, well, when I was in sales, so Simon Sinek was an author and a motivational speaker, and I love him, the guy. So anyway, he had this golden circle theory, and it was all about branding and what makes a brand sell more than another, although they're both actually selling the same product. So what he was kind of saying, is on the first level, you have, the what, which is a product you sell.
Yeah.
Then you have the how, which is how this product works. So what he was saying is what actually makes the sale, what makes a brand bigger than the other brands is not the what or the how, it's the why. So what's the motive behind the brand? Why are you selling this product? What do you want to achieve? So, and I really believe this goes back to being real and working with passion and integrity. So I think in the end, what people are going to buy, and I hate the term buy, but it's very easy to understand.
It
What
is.
people, yeah, is your why. Is, why should I watch Sylas, for example? What does he bring in as an actor? There's so many stand-up comedians out there, and they all, say jokes, some better, some worse, but why would I go and actually pay money and watch Sylas? So it's the why, and I think that's where it's a lot to be said about, focusing in yourself and actually dealing with why are you actually doing? Why are you an actor? Why do you want actually to put yourself out there and communicate with people? What do you want to give them? What do you want to bring? And I think if you work a lot on that, I believe it's kind of going to lead you to make better choices and make, your brand bigger and make, your connection with the audience stronger to last in time as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, at the end of the day, you always have to break it down to like the essential stuff, which I've been noticing with if anything that if you want to understand, if you're learning a new skill, whatever you do is like if you want one, it motivates you better having a clearer vision, but two, it makes you more flexible because like what do I love to do? You break it down to the essentials. You might say, okay, I love this acting stuff, but maybe I can use those skills in a different environment as well, and now it gives me a different avenue. So hopefully I can make a living and then still do the acting and then work around it. And
Yeah, of course, of course.
okay, yeah, it is. Yeah, I'm fascinated because basically I had this mentality which has been good for me to a certain point of like if you're gonna do something, do it properly. So if you're gonna be an actor, you have to go for the highest stuff and go properly. Which on the one hand is good, but the other hand it's a bit of a pressure saying if it's you don't succeed to do it properly, then it's somehow your fault or you're failing. That's the dark side of it. So I'm always curious about people that try to go a different route, even if you said you gave it up for a while, but you're like, okay, I'm gonna try to do something else as well. I'm a bit
Yeah.
fascinated about that. It's how did you embrace the new lifestyles? Like obviously you had a mourning period of
Yeah.
oh my God, what now?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a
Yeah, of
bit of
course.
depression and a bit of everything, just a dark period, let's call it that.
Yeah.
And then how did you regroup and be like, okay, I'm gonna try this direction now? How did that work?
To be honest, my my main career was in sales.
Right.
Okay, I did the academic thing. Then I bought my first house. I had a mortgage. The money as a part-time lecturer wasn't enough. I had a student loan as well to pay. So I had to start working. And initially, I worked for a company in Haywood Heath, and I was working days and nights. So there were 3 years of my life, I was working 56 hours a week because I was working 2 long day shifts and then 3 long night shifts after because I had to pay off, bills and stuff. So that kind of like, kept it real because to be honest, those 3 years I was just sleeping, eating, and going to work. And that
Yeah.
was life. After what happened, I kind of was, I was working there as a customer service agent. And then I got my first job here in Brighton and it was in sales. And I did it for 6 months so I can move in the same company from customer service, from sales to customer service again. But I was good. And I was really good. And then, one thing, so it was really weird with sales because being good and I think acting plays a great role in to be able to, communicate the product to someone and,
Yeah.
do the demand and sell it successfully. And because sales is communication as well.
Well, yeah, it's listening and communicating, reading the person, and then
Exactly. So it just kind of, pulled me in. So I was, a lead generator. After that, I was promoted into a sales advisor. Then I became a senior sales advisor. Then I was promoted to become an account manager and actually not sell, but manage brokers that sold. And then after that, I went into sales training for a very big company and I was training new people and existing staff. And then I went into another company and it was So it was, I think it was a career. It was that was good at it. I love people, and I love the fact of speaking with people, understanding them, and actually, give them some value, helping them with what I was saying. And
Mm.
the whole case with customers, I would actually even talk, with brokers later on. We would have conversations about personal issues after speaking about the product and how they would sell it. So communication, so that kept me feeling that, that is part of acting, and I applied that in my jobs. I loved sales training because I loved, putting together the training sessions and then performing them, because you perform doing that. So
Yeah,
that was kind
you kind of you were devising your own little play, basically.
it's your little show. It's your little 40-minute, 1 hour show. So I love that as well. So I, there were elements in those jobs that were not acting, but there were elements from the acting and skills I, drew upon from there.
Mm.
So so I loved my job. To be honest, until I got cancer, although acting was always in the back of my head, I was if I hadn't had cancer, I would still be doing that sort of job, probably in the company I was, because they were great. So it was okay. It was never, but it was always, you see, it was waking up in the morning, Sylas. Waking up in the morning and thinking just for a while, who am I? Who am I now? Because, although I was doing a decent job, and, and it was, everything is fine, but it wasn't really who I was. And I would have to deal with it in moments in time. Like, who am I? I cannot recognize this person. Who that person in their 20s that were, want to do, or had all these dreams to achieve all this stuff, with their art. So, yeah, I don't know. So I adapted pretty well because brought things in there, but at the same
Yeah, so you
time,
were still true to parts of you, but not completely. Is what
not completely. There was these times in between things that I was doing where I was thinking, who am I? And I write poems, so that was one way of expressing myself through art. So what I did, I was writing. I don't know if it's good or bad poetry, but but I've been writing poems for
Okay,
many, many
it's
years.
poetry. Fuck it.
Yeah,
It's yours, there's no reason to put labels on it that way.
yeah. Anyway, so yeah, I don't know. Yeah, so it's I try to bring in things that would make me be as true to myself as possible. But then again, I wasn't really true to myself, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, but you were like, that's fascinating. You were trying to find that balance between, like there's that little voice inside going, you're not doing exactly what you need to be doing.
Exactly, Silas. Exactly that.
So you
And
were
even
trying to like
not
navigate.
exactly, you're not who you said you'd be when you were 20 years old, or 25, or even
Yeah.
30. You're not who you said you'd be. You're something else, but you're not that. And it's always there. It comes in between, and it makes you feel sad, and it makes you feel a bit bitter. It makes you feel like, oh gosh, I went through life being something good, but which is not really me.
Mm.
And and that, it's so yeah, it's a balancing act, really.
Yeah, that's something like it's actually quite a valuable lesson because I think we're all trying to find a balance tonight between who we are and what the world wants us to be, and at some point you have to put your foot down. But hopefully, like ideally, you find who you are and then you try to build the world around it so you can make it work. But it's always, there's a give and take. It's not just, sometimes you win, sometimes you lose in this give and take. Sometimes you give too much, sometimes you don't get enough. It's one of those things.
Do you do anything else besides acting, Silas? Do you have
Of
another job?
course, I'm also a waiter. I'm also, that's my day job at the moment. But
Okay.
I'm also like I'm trying to like get as many things going creatively, so hopefully everything's around the same industry, so I can start making a living mostly in the industry.
How do you balance that then? How do you balance, leaving the role of the stand-up comedian, actor, and becoming a waiter, and then how do you do this? How do
I'm
you
gonna
find it?
answer that question after a little break because we got less than a minute in the Zoom call, so I'm gonna
Oh, okay.
get back.
Oh gosh.
No,
Okay.
with you back in a minute. Thank you.
Okay. No worries. No worries.
Welcome back. That was actually quick. I didn't even
Hello.
been talking for like 37 minutes and it just flew by. So to answer your question, which was how do I balance, working in hospitality with the acting. So basically, I kind of do the same thing which you did, which was I focus on the stuff in hospitality that I quite enjoy. So I do love, interacting with the customers. I try to crack jokes. There is a more of a limit. It's like you're performing under strict guidelines of like there's certain topics I will not go into because I don't want to get fired and I don't want to upset a customer.
Yeah, yeah.
So I'll normally try to get a read of the table and then joke about things that they've either made a joke about or, like to give you the wildest example I've had one customer this past week who I asked him just to like, banter. I was like, what was the craziest gift you've bought for Christmas?
Yeah.
And it was a couple. And the guy just said, well, we bought handcuffs for the bedroom. And I was
Really?
like, okay, yeah, I was literally like, okay, and obviously the lady in the couple, she was like, oh, so I'm like, I'm just gonna walk away. So I walk away with the plates. As I go, with the plates, a joke occurs to me. So I'll go back and I just go to the guy. By the way, sir, that is a very odd gift to buy for your parents. And he started laughing, and I was like, whew,
Okay, cool.
he set the tone. I would not have made the joke.
Exactly. Is that your fault, Sylas? Exactly. He set the tone there.
It's like if you're gonna set it up, I have to, then I don't have to, but I want to add to it. But yeah, so it's things like that of like reading your table and interacting. And sometimes you don't get to make jokes because someone's like, yes, thank you, no. But like you go in and they start leaning away, you're like, okay, you're not comfortable with people around you. So but yeah, it's literally breaking it down to the essentials and kind of like what are the aspects of this job that I enjoy doing, and I try to do as much of that as I can, you
Yeah.
know. Also, I find that I do like physical activity. So if I'm on the bar, I kind of focus on, it's like a workout. So I just focus on that aspect of it. So yeah, it's things like that of like making it work for you. But I always have in my back of my head the thought of like, this is helping me, for get into acting. So this is funding me until I manage to go into acting. So there's always that. It's not like this is my life going forward.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I'm with you. Look, it's the same, with me. Well, they're not the same, but I was doing all these things that I was doing. One thing I forgot to say: a great motivation for not being an actor was that I had a mortgage, and I
Yeah.
had, okay. So when your bills are up to
Yeah,
really high level, you have no choice. And I was in sales. The commission they give you the basic salary, which was quite good, and then I earned a lot of commission on top. So it was to sustain my lifestyle here. Now I don't have a mortgage anymore, so that's another reason why I decide that now is a good time to actually try and get back into it.
Yeah.
Yeah. When you're young, I don't know. For me, it's I want to do it now, but I'm really dedicated and really hopeful, and I'm putting a lot of work trying to dust my dust my skills from
Yeah,
20 years.
Gets the rust, get the rust off, basically.
And exactly. So anyway, yeah.
And I mean, you've got a very interesting challenge yourself of like entering the industry. Obviously, it has changed a lot, in the 20 years since then, especially in the UK. I mean, I've got a number of questions about that, but let's start. The thing I wanted to ask was, what was the moment when the switch clicked and you're like, I'm going back into the acting? Obviously, the cancer happened, and I'm glad you pulled through, and I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, it's very fortunate and good for you. But
Yeah, it's what happens with cancer, because it's such a traumatic experience. Dealing with your mortality. Mine was quite aggressive. I had really tough chemotherapy. I ended up being like a skeleton, gray little skeleton with no hair, and it was like it's kind of like takes you back to point zero, if
yeah,
it makes any sense. I couldn't walk, so my poor my husband now, Matthew, had to drag me around in a wheelchair to the hospital. So it was a really painful process to go from there to being again. And because you go to that point zero, it kind of forces you to think about, okay, now, who am I? You kind of have to renegotiate your identity and where you're going to go from here. And it's traumatic and sad because you think you at that to that point you think, well, I am who I am, like it or not, and that's what I'm going to go with. But it kind of takes that away, and you're nothing. And it's good because there's all this potential in front of you of who you're going to be. But at the same time, it's quite scary as well because, like, you're not 20 anymore. You're, now you're 50, and
I mean,
so
yeah, it sounds like it shakes you to. I mean, I'm just
completely. And then, is
breaks
what I want to do. And initially, I wanted to give back, to thank God for being alive and give something back to the people. And I became a healthcare assistant. And it was not me though. It was a very good job. And even there, I would speak with the patients. I would sing with some of them. And it was, but it wasn't me. And then I was like, okay, I'm going to try and get back into what I was doing before, but that wasn't me either. And it's like, well, none of the things that were me just, a year ago are me any longer. And that's how I went back to acting, Sylas, because I was always an actor. So that was always me. And then it never stopped. And I thought, you know what, maybe the whole thing happened because I had to go back to zero. So I get back on the right track in my life.
Again, going back to the essentials, the very,
exactly that. To your core, to the truth that we all have. Our core is our truth. And I felt for years that I was, doing good things, but I was completely off track. Where did I come here when I was, here? And I had to kind of like revisit my core and my truth. And in my truth, it was always acting. It was always that. I had the biggest love of my life. And that's why I thought, you know what, now all this happened for this reason, just to be slapped. Someone said, Yanni, wake up. You've gone completely off track. Get back on the right path. And that's what I feel I'm now. So it's always very hard. It is very difficult. And the industry has changed, and I'm in a different country, and I'm older now. Still, though, I feel happier than I felt in years, and more true to myself, Sylas, as well.
I mean, that just kind of begs the question of, what would be your advice to someone? If someone's in their 20s, I mean, what would the advice would be that you would give to yourself in your 20s? Having that conversation with yourself of like, I think I'm going to give up acting or go do something else. What would you say to yourself now?
Two things that counselor taught me. I got two great lessons. One, be grateful. I really believe the biggest weapon we all have in life to persevere and to get through bad times is being grateful about the good times. And we're not. Most of us would just take life for granted, even, looking at the sky, looking at a bird outside in the garden, or simple things. And I don't want to sound cringing and dramatic, but it's true. It's so true. A kind of cancer came and took a membrane off my eyes and made me see things. So grateful. I would say be grateful for the good things, for the small role, for the small, tiny little successes. Nothing is tiny. And then don't lose hope. Second lesson that cancer taught me, never lose hope. Because what I did, I lost hope. I wasn't grateful about the things I was doing. And then I lost hope. That's why I left acting. That's why I dropped out and said, I failed. I'll do other things.
Yeah.
The failure was here. I just lost, I lost the power. So those two things, gratitude and hope. That's my best to see less.
It's not even that what you're saying is you don't lose hope. You kind of give up hope. And you have to actively fight to keep it. It's
true. It's so easy, but you know what? I don't know. I think hope and gratitude go together. If you're grateful for what you achieve, you never lose hope.
That's true. Yeah, it's something quite, again, a bit of a mind fuck, but it's almost like, because we all have an ego. Sometimes if we don't teach our ego to appreciate the little things, it will poison whatever we have, and now you don't enjoy what you have, even though you actively have to teach yourself your gratefulness and just just allowing yourself to feel that positivity that would come from this thing. But because our egos, we that has to be trained as well. It's trained for certain things. It might not actually block that joy you would feel otherwise.
Yeah.
You're like,
Yeah, it's all about being mindfulness, living in the moment and enjoying the moment. And what our brain does, we're so preoccupied about what we need to do next. What's the career plan? Where we're going to be in 5. I got honestly, after cancer, I hear about 5, 10-year plans, and I laugh. People planning, their wedding. Oh, we're going to get married in 2 years' time, and I'm like, why? If you have your person now and you're in love, and you want to get married, just go and do it. Maybe you don't have the money, doesn't matter. You don't have the money to buy the dress, the wedding dress, or to have the catering, don't have it. Just take that person you love and go. And with my husband, with Matthew, we were together for 8 years, of course. But it's in 1 month. We had got engaged before cancer, and then cancer happened and COVID. When there was a small window, we said we're doing it, and we arranged the wedding in 2 months. Don't waste time. Don't make plans. Now is now. And if you live for the now, you're less stressed. You enjoy more things that happen. You become more grateful about the present, about things you have and have achieved. And then you're free. You have, your mind and your soul is free to let the future happen, because it happens, Sylas, and it doesn't happen always by plan. It doesn't.
Actually, it never really does by plan, right?
Never does. Actually, you're right.
Even the best plans will need some sort of adjustment at some point.
Yeah. True.
I mean, yeah, again, because I've been doing my thinking a lot about this because I had to for a number of reasons. But yeah, when you look at the world and you realize that everything's, constant, like every single particle is constantly moving. It's kind of a miracle anything ever goes to plan,
Exactly. Everything in life is flexible. It's fluid.
Yeah, everything has an agenda. Like, look around. Everything, has a thing to do. People, objects, atoms, everything. So just go and try to make it happen, and fingers crossed it does.
Exactly that. And be prepared for anything. Go for your goals, but be prepared for anything. You can only organize and be, and up to a point.
Yeah.
A lot of things will happen, and you have to be flexible. Flexibility and be able to adapt is another key thing.
Yeah. Fair enough. Well, that brings us back to the acting now. So how is it? How are you getting ready for being an actor after a 20-year break? Right. So.
Yeah.
I mean, in certain aspects, technically, you never really stopped being an actor, and you said you were always performing and communicating.
Yeah.
Let's just say, how are you finding the return?
Well, it's quite daunting. I mean, first of all, what I'm trying to do is, kind of like, polish my craft and my skills. So I'm working a lot on monologues and again, and trying to make tapes and trying to, yeah, because you have those tools and they're sitting there, and they're now mine are a bit rusty. So so trying bring them back to date. One thing. Also, for me, a big concern is that not say yes to anything and everything. So I have said some no's to stuff coming my way, because for some reason I felt that I don't know. Either I didn't want to do them for a reason, or they were not good enough. They weren't good for me. Now they weren't good. Maybe they were nice jokes for someone else, but not for me. So I'm trying to actually, not be greedy in the sense I'll do anything. Just give me a job and I'll do it. Try and do things that I think, okay, you know what, I could do that, and I could enjoy it, and I could bring something in, and it could be constructive.
Yeah.
So that's one thing, yeah, and as well, for my main concern is, because I have this accent that is not British, it's a bit, all over the place. So it's just trying to see, okay, how do I make myself relevant? Because I'm not going to be the guy in the neighborhood in Coronation Street, or Enders. I'm not. I might be the guy, if they bring a Greek guy or something in the plot, I might be that.
Is there not a series? There is the Dorals, I think it's called. There's
The Dartles, yeah, that was some of the people playing there, people I knew from Greece, actors.
all right.
Uh,
Okay.
but things do happen. But I have a really good agent here. I'm trying to also put myself out there for agents in Greece that do international things. So I've approached some of them with things I've done and my CV and stuff. So waiting to hear from there. So for me, it's pretty much the biggest challenge is to market myself adequately. So know exactly who I am and what I bring on the table. Know what gap is out there, who I can be, and try and reinvent myself, to make me relevant at this age, with this being non-British, make it relevant to a British market.
Yeah.
So and that for me takes a lot of thinking, but I find it very exciting as well. So one decision I've made is I'm not going to try and learn a perfect British accent and then try and recreate British types, because I think it's going to, I don't know, maybe someone can do it, and I take off my hat, but knowing me and knowing how Greek I am, I think that it would be really hard to do so. So I leave that to the English actors, that they're doing it great, and it's their mentality, their culture, their way of communication. And I'll try and bring something else on the table that will complement that.
Yeah.
So I'm seeing myself as a complementary dish,
Right.
that will fill in well with the other dishes. I don't want it, so that's the thing, that is, and because I had with my husband, with Matthew, conversations about, trying some more, English monologues. And for me, I have a very clear vision of what I want to achieve. I don't want to become, I don't want to be on EastEnders pretending I am English, because I'm not. So I have to find other ways to actually relate to the audience of EastEnders or Coronation Street, or to a theater audience even more, by bringing on the table who I am, my truth, and my accent is part of my truth, and I can work on some, bits of it as time goes by. But still, I don't want to be something that is completely outside me. I believe in acting. I believe, for me, great actors are the ones that, do different types of roles, but they always bring their truth in those roles.
Yeah.
And I think there's a space, you can go out of range and will not, your truth not really meeting the role. And I don't know, maybe some people with just mere technique could do it, but for me, it's always Yanni, me has to be in it.
Yeah. They can't really. It's still gonna be you. It's different versions of you. Like, it's not.
Yeah. So yes, it's polish my act, and then try and see how my act can be relevant to a UK market.
Yeah, I'm actually curious. So this leads into the next topic. I was gonna ask you, being obviously an immigrant from Greece, how do you think the British market sees, the Greek casting type? Because, like, I've had this chat many times about, like, Eastern Europeans. We automatically get the pimps. So he's basically either a pimp, prostitute, or gangster. Or now it's like you get the flip side of it, is like you're a policeman. You're a East European police officer trying to catch the East European pimp, prostitute, or gangster.
I don't know. I haven't been that long to have a formed opinion, but I think, yes, also as an actor here, what I've been called for is mainly character bits.
Right.
So yeah. So it's always whatever they've won before it hasn't been an English person, which is great. I don't mind that. But it's yes, I would, but I feel that for me in this market, I would be a character actor. But you know what? Even when I was young in Greece, in drama school, I was a character actor, was a type actor.
Yeah.
I was never a premiere, so it doesn't feel that foreign to me, and I think that's what happened. I'm not saying that a non-English person cannot, be leading man. They could, but I think I would be the most obvious choice for non-English is to be characters. Yeah, the pimp, the policeman, the whatever. I don't mind it though, because I find those roles very interesting. What you can do with them,
yes. Ideally, you're like, like at some point you're like, okay, I'm gonna, that's my bread and butter basically. But hopefully, I can add more flavors, different variety, and just, yeah.
It's more spicy. It can also be more comical sometimes, and I don't know. So that's how I see me here as a character actor, which is I love it because that's what I always was. Even in Greece, I was a character actor.
Yeah. Yeah, that's basically market research is what you've done, sir. That's pretty much.
Yeah. You know what? I said it before, off record. Sometimes I talk and my mind just flies off. So sorry, if I start from one point and end up in a completely different point, and then I go to myself, where are we, Yanni?
I don't think you did. I mean, that's you answered the question. You answered the question of like how you, sort of navigating this scene. What I was curious is like if you noticed anything how the British market would see Greeks, if there's anything that stood out to you.
I think as types. I think mainly as characters. Or by the Greek, come on, like things like that. Of course, that's how we think they would see, a Greek person with an accent coming in the market. Yes, as a character actor. But again, you have, you've given your fights and you established yourself and you've done a lot of things, Sylas. So to be honest, I should be asking you about your experience of the market and you asking me, because for me, I'm still, a novice here, it's still something completely new. So so I'm just saying what I think will be the case. I don't know, because, after a year, when we talk again, in a year's time, I will tell you, what, Sylas?
I've just been a novice longer. That's all. I've just been a novice longer, but what I was actually gonna say, you mentioned about the accents. So one time, this is like my go-to star story, but I played pool with Mads Mikkelsen.
Oh, Sylas. Yeah, sorry.
Are we back on? Is it working again?
Yeah, we're on again. Yeah.
Okay, so I played pool with Mads Mikkelsen. This is the story that I tell everybody.
Really?
Once, yeah, by complete. It was a fluke. I went into a pub and he's right there. He was working. This was in Windsor, and he was working in Pinewood, so he was accommodated in Windsor, and he was going for his beer or whatever. And I go into the pub, and he's sitting in front of me. So I freak out. But long story short, I did ask him because this was already. He just done Hannibal. He was either filming, because this was 2016. He was either filming Star Wars Rogue One, or he was filming Doctor Strange, the first one. So one of those two. And I asked him, about the acting stuff and the accents, and he said that he personally does not believe in trying to do other accents. For him, his acting is always affected if he tries to do another accent. So he's been very much embracing of him being himself. And, he's been making a killing with it. So am I going to tell Mads Mikkelsen that what you really need to do is, learn a proper RP or a,
exactly.
Cockney? Like, he's been making it work exceptionally well. So fair play to the guy. So there's definitely, there's that leaning into your strengths is never a bad thing.
Authentic. He's authentic. It's the authenticity. And people like authentic stuff.
Yeah, it just resonates with you stronger.
Exactly, and that's and to have a clear message, a clear brand. And again, I'm using sales and brand because I've been in sales too long, probably. But take them, it's so important. If you're true to yourself, then your brand is authentic, then your why is clear, then you have a bigger impact.
Yeah, and then when if we look at the market, if you're competing with when everyone's competing, it's like that little shift of being completely true to yourself versus just a little bit, that can make a massive difference, because someone else, whose thing is that thing specifically that you're going for, but for them that's authentic, they're gonna be doing it a lot better, a lot more.
Yes, for sure, Sylas. They'll do it way better, so they're gonna put me on the side, because they're the one that, the audience will want in the industry. Well, to be honest, I'm studying one accent, is the American accent, American Standard. And that is because I was born in the States. And I was born in Los Angeles. And then when we went back to Greece and my father had a heart attack, he died very young. So because we have family in the States, still have family there, my mom took us back. So I went to pre-kindergarten in the United States. So we came to Greece, we moved, and I did not speak Greek. So we went 2 years with my sister to a private school to learn the Greek language. So because that is part of who I am, although I've lost the accent. Sometimes the twang comes out, but it's not. So that's the reason why I'm doing American accent with a great vocal coach, because it feels true to me. Because I lived in a family that was quite Americanized. It was not a traditional Greek family. I've been there for many, many times. I was born there. So that is something I can do without feeling I'm trying to do something, that is pretentious.
So technically you have the citizenship, don't you?
Yes, I have the passport.
You work in America as well.
Yeah. Well, I have to renew my passport. I haven't renewed my passport since 2000. The last one I had was 1997 to 2007. And now, so it's a complicated process because you need your social security number, which I can't find. And because my sister, she renews it as it goes, she could do it online. For me, because I left it expire, I have to go to the American Embassy and do it in person. So, but that's something I'm going to do. Not because I want to work in the States as much. I wouldn't say no.
Well, it wouldn't hurt.
But no, it wouldn't hurt at all. But because it is part of my identity. American, and I would, I would like to, have a to-date passport, American passport as well. But yeah, 2 citizenships. And my family, a lot of it stayed there. I have cousins still in the States, second generation Greeks. So it's been part of my, who I am and my upbringing. So that is something I do because I think I could, when I learn to speak properly again, I'm in American accent, I could play roles as such. But British, although I love the British accent and I love Britain, me trying to speak as a British person, I don't know, it's completely out of who I am. I don't know, maybe it's the wrong mentality.
Maybe you work with practice, but again, it's,
I don't know what
I recommend it to everyone. The more accents you have, because that's what I've heard. Like I've asked a couple of people, and I've asked the casting director, and it was like, try to get as many accents as you can, because you can.
But I've seen your show reels, Sylas. You're very good. Like you have a talent with accents. You're very good. I would, I wouldn't tell that you're not from here. From the show reels I've seen. But that's a talent as well. My husband Matthew, he's amazing with accents. He can do all different, just English, but he can do all different regional English accents. He can do American, Australian, like he picks it up like this. Accents is not my talent.
Fair enough. But again, just
knowing your limitations is also a strength, isn't it, really? So that's a limitation of mine, is not. So.
And also keep in mind, Mads Mikkelsen is doing okay. Mads Mikkelsen is doing okay. So
okay. So I take that.
Fair enough. Well, wow, it's lovely to see that you have a positive attitude after all the things you've been through, and you're still very
of course, always. I'm an optimist. I'm an optimist always. Even in the darkest places, I was like, I could see the light. I was having my first cycle of chemo in hospital. And I was speaking with this poor tour rep, and I was arranging a trip to Brazil, Peru. Honestly, and I was in the side room fainting because of the really strong chemo. When I was waking up, I was emailing her, and I got a quote. So I was already in the beginning of the journey, with no one knew how I'm going to react to chemo, where it's going to go, what's going to happen. I had arranged when I'm out of here, I'm going to Brazil. We didn't do it in the end. It was just a quote. Although it's still in my bucket list. That's to do.
A beautiful place.
Yeah, but yeah, yes, I never lose hope. Never lose hope. Never thought, guys, I'm going to give up. So yes, I'm an optimist. So yeah, of course, I'm doing all this with with joy and happiness, and it's an adventure again, and I feel like sometimes I feel I'm I'm your age, which is a bad thing. On my age, you know what I mean? But I feel like okay, yeah, let's go for it.
I made a deal with myself. I'm 18 forever. Like that's not changing.
Cool. Okay. Oh, okay.
So I'm not judging. Okay. I'm trying to think if there's a couple of things I like to ask. I don't want to wrap up just yet, but if you want to talk about how you've been since you've re-entered the scene of how you've been finding it, I'm curious about that because again, Greek, taking time off. You're in your 50s as well, so it's a different industry at different levels. So if you want to talk about that at all, I would love to hear your experiences with that.
I haven't had a bad experience with it. I was like, already, it's like nearly 4 months. I've had some things, not only through I had some tapes requests through my agent, but also I found things by myself.
Yeah.
How am I finding it? It's early days, more. I don't know, early days. There's some things that I didn't do in the end, and I regret I didn't do it because I feel that at this stage maybe I should do more. But as I said, I want to be I wanted to do it properly, if there is such a thing. Not without running too much in the future, going with what I feel and how what the gut feeling is behind things. And I don't know. So it's okay. It's just that there are all these roles that come up on Spotlight or backstage or name any platform, and they're they're English characters. So there's a lot of things out there, lots of them that I don't feel I could apply for because I'm not English. So it's just trying to find the correct roles and trying to, but still, there are people that have, come back to me and they've been interested to talk about stuff with me. So, yeah, just enjoying the moment. That's what I'm going to say. Yeah, being very helpful, feeling very adventurous, knowing that how much I have to work again on my craft to bring it up to date, because it's been a lot of time. So very, I need to better myself, and I'm trying to do that quite a lot. Work hard. That's my main concern, maybe. And then try and see, how I'm going to fit in this market. I'm open to the exciting things that could happen in the future without planning too much.
All right. So a lot of optimism.
Let it come my way. I think if it is to come, and if it is to happen, and if it is for my benefit, it will. You just need to be positive and open for it, and that's what I'm doing. Just
putting yourself out there and taking whatever comes your way.
Putting myself out there, working on the things I need to work on, and then kind of not waiting. I'm applying. I'm not saying, but waiting for the good thing to come. And that's it.
It's I've heard this expression, which is aggressively patient.
I love that. I'm gonna steal that.
I've heard it from it's Patrick Bad David. He's a business person, and you gotta be aggressively patient. That means you're not not idle, but you're also patient.
You're not desperate.
Yeah.
But you're aggressive. You can put it in different ways. You're aggressive. You go for things without being desperate, and which is never charming and never attractive in any job, really.
No.
So yeah. But I love it. Aggressively patient. I'm stealing that, Sylas. I'm going to use this.
I'm just spreading the word. I'm just spreading the gospel. Take it. It's all
for the love.
Well, I've got two final questions then, sir. Because one of them is obviously immigrants and immigrant artists have all sorts of crazy jobs. If there's one crazy job that stands out to you that you've done, this is your moment, sir.
My crazy job here. I don't know. Well, to be honest, I haven't done crazy jobs in the sense, that, well, Nando's was quite crazy because it was so hectic. It was a new brand, had just opened, and it was like, the queue lines in Brighton, in the South Lane.
What year was this?
That was 2003, 2004.
Oh, so this is early 2000 Nando's. Let's put that out.
Exactly. It was the second year that it opened down in Brighton. I'm sure it was the second year. Wow. I don't know if I remember. But anyway, and so that was quite crazy. But I don't know. I've been a tour guide with groups in Greece, all over Greece. The craziest I've done was working days and nights for that company here was here to pay my debts. That was, I don't know, I still, Sylas, if you ask me today how you did it, I don't have a clue. This 57-hour a week. And it was, 10 hours, the 2-day shifts and 12-hour night shifts from 8 o'clock in the evening to 8 in the morning.
Oof.
I have no clue. Those 3 years, if you ask me what happened in those 3 years, I cannot remember much. My social life was actually the office, going there and socializing with my colleagues. And I was lucky because I had an amazing supervisor, Christine, and a lot of colleagues were still friends from back, 2007, 2008. But yeah, that is the craziest job, working, these 5 really long shifts, day and nights.
Yours,
yeah, your crazy job?
My crazy job, oof. I worked in a buffet that got shut down a few years ago for tax evasion.
Okay.
It was a chain of buffets. I'm not gonna name it, but yes, it was. It was my first job because I was 19 and my CV was 1 line. So yes, it was a wild experience. I don't want to say too much but technically,
now you're making me curious. I want to know
everything I'm saying is public knowledge.
You have to send me the name on later on.
Yeah, I mean it's shut down. It's shut down, but yeah, that was the one place where from the very beginning I was like, oh, okay, so business people can be very sneaky. Just to give you an idea, we used to get 50 pence tips for an hour worked. So for a week, you could get maximum, it was capped at 30 hours, so maximum you could get £15 tips for a week. And you were watching these jars full of coins every day.
Wow, okay.
Yeah. But it was basically, that was my first job. I was 19 and there was nobody else hiring me. So I took what I got,
Yeah, yeah.
And made the most of it. And I made some friends that I'm still in touch with today. So.
That's good, isn't it?
It was worth it. It was worth it.
Yeah. You know what? I think that when the situation is not, is not the most obvious, the most comfortable, I think that's where you create the stronger bonds with people.
Yeah.
Sharing experience a bit more, a bit tougher.
Well, there's a reason soldiers, talk. Even being in the war, they still talk about the camaraderie they have. So.
Or even athletes, teams like soccer players. You create this big bonds because you go through these big life events together, and you support each other. So it does make sense, yeah, for sure.
The other question is, what is the Greek food that people in the UK should know about?
Oh gosh, okay. My favorite Greek dish.
Yes, please.
Is but gemista. So gemista is stuffed tomatoes with rice.
Okay.
That's it. But it's not any gemista. It's my mom's recipe. So my mama, bless her, she does the best gemista ever. So that is, I could have gemista tomatoes with feta cheese, for a whole year. We just have,
I'm not familiar with it. I know domades, which is the vine leaves or something else with the rice or meat or whatever. But so this is stuffed tomatoes. Is it sweet tomato? Or is it like a pickled tomato?
No. It's some fresh tomatoes. She opens them and then of course she cooks them in the oven with olive oil and different spices. I don't know exactly how she does it, but it's it's not pickled. It's fresh tomatoes in the oven with rice and garlic and onion and Sylas, that's and it's quite healthy as well. It's tomato and rice.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Yeah,
sounds very good.
And then souvlaki, of course. Souvlaki, come on. Okay. It's up there as well. Yeah.
Any dessert that we should know about?
Baklavas.
Okay. Yeah.
Kadaifi. Although, those are Greek, but also, Middle Eastern desserts. So a lot of people have had them, from here. But yeah, galactobureko. I love that. It's a filo pastry with cream in the middle and filo pastry and syrup. It's just like, oh gosh. I love to and some places in Greece do the traditional one with a lot of butter in the filling, and it's just mwah. Well, I'm getting hungry now.
Well, yeah, I ate before this interview, but now I'm like, I could probably go for something. But well, thank you so much for answering all my questions. You've been very
Thank,
kind and generous.
thank you, Sylas. I hope I didn't speak too much. That's
I
that's
told
what
you this
that would
already.
be
If I speak more than you do, it's a problem.
oh God.
I'm gonna
Okay.
stop the recording now.